Hello, my name is Barbara Bilgre from Horizon Japan International School, and I would like to present to you a science unit for MYP1 or grade 6. It's an inquiry unit looking at how big is big, exploring the concepts of relationships, models, evidence, and scale. We began the unit by unpacking what each one of these concepts means independently through a Jamboard and student collaboration. Students were divided into 4 groups, and each group took a concept and they mind mapped what they thought that the concept meant. This was a way to initially introduce these concepts to the students. We followed up with a concept sort on a particular one of scale, where I gave them 7 images and they had to decide whether or not the images represent scale or not scale. And then they had to back up their claims. And even though they didn't always have the same answers, based upon the reasoning they gave most of the time, I was able to accept the answers that they gave to me. This was all preceding an activity we did on introducing the students to science lab equipment. In this activity, students were using the claims evidence reasoning model they learned in the previous unit to make a claim about what a particular piece of science equipment was used for, backing it up with evidence from the observations they were making and providing reasons as to why the evidence they have and the size and shape and details of the equipment were important for its function that they have identified. So students were given the names of the equipment and the pieces of equipment, but they weren't told what they do or how they're used, and students were not allowed to look this up on the internet. So they were looking at things like graduated cylinders, a syringe, beakers, a balance, a thermometer, and this measuring stick, a meter stick. And the students had to, as a group, collaboratively explore these pieces of equipment and make a claim about what they were used for based upon the evidence they gathered through their observations. You can see here some samples of the student work. They had to draw sketches as well because those sketches helped them to be more detailed observers in determining how to use the equipment. I want to share a reflection some of the students made after the investigation.
What did you think about this as a way of learning about what the different laboratory equipment was?
It was fun and I like it work. I think it's better for us to understand rather than just like you telling us what it is. I think we'll just be on our mind a little bit more. Like that too. Yeah, because like we investigated, so yeah, you also kind of taught us about how big things, for example, like the weight, all of this stuff teaches like different
And you had that follow-up education perfect activity where you looked at all of these things. Do you feel like that went much faster and you understood that better after having explored the equipment first?
Yeah. Like we experienced it in real life, so you need to think about it. Yeah, it's really good.
Great.
So,
what did you think about?
So this activity was precursor to where the students were actually making measurements and using the equipment to make measurements. So it gave them a sense of how they would go about using it, exploring it, really observing it in detail before they actually had to do a more intensive investigation where they were actually making the measurements. All of this is part of a bigger unit where students will be exploring how to measure really tall things like trees and thinking about using models for understanding distances and times in space project.